This video contains spoilers for many parts of Halo Infinite's campaign. Talking about Halo Infinite is kinda tricky, for me at least. I have a complicated relationship with the series. I haven't played the majority of the titles. I played some of the Halo 1 campaign in co-op with friends when it came out. I played the multiplayer here and there at LAN parties back in 2002. I played a bit of Halo 2 multiplayer because all my friends played it. But I wasn't a console shooter guy. I preferred the fast-paced shooters of the 90s on PC, like Quake and Unreal Tournament. And I didn't play any Halo games after that. For a long time, I held a grudge against Halo.
Because I didn't like the direction that first-person shooters took after its massive success. And by extension, the effect that Call of Duty ended up having.
Blocking the whole screen!
Take it off, jerk! Hey!
Well, yeah, it's going to be crazy talking about Halo from your perspective, Mayo, since Mayo isn't really a fan of Halo, so a lot of his criticisms come from not being a fan of Halo in general.
For a long time, I held a grudge against Halo.
How could you hold a grudge against Halo when it's a revolutionary shooter? It changed the landscape of shooters for years to come when it launched. It allows for gameplay choice and player freedom. It's a large interactive sandbox. This changed shooters forever, and it has set the standard for what many shooters strived for years. It set a new standard for shooters. If anything, its impact on shooters improved the first-person shooter landscape. As I've stated before, Mayo doesn't like Halo in general, so his criticisms are going to seem a bit out there for certain things that aren't really that big a deal. But he'll see it as a big deal because he's not the biggest fan of Halo. Yeah, the Halo grapple hook allows for more flexibility in battle. It's utilized for a lot of creativity in the gameplay. It's actually quite simple, and that's the beauty of it. There's beauty in simplicity.
Almost 20 years later, I decided to revisit Halo, and I was able to appreciate it for the game that it is, finally separating my emotional reaction to it when it came out from the objective quality of the game itself. I detail that emotional reaction in my polarizing video, Halo Ruined First-Person Shooters, which is about how I personally experienced Halo affecting my local first-person shooter scene and future FPS titles in years to come, ultimately ending with me finding respect for Halo at the end of the day, and I have a follow-up video that clarifies those feelings. I am not a Halo fan, but I'm also not a Halo hater. The games I played, Halo 1 and 2, were good as far as I know. I haven't played them deeply enough to thoroughly examine them. And as Halo Infinite's release date has been approaching, I've been excited, but honestly kinda nervous too. I avoided the early release multiplayer because, as someone who is not a big Halo fan, I just want to dive into the campaign on launch day and experience the game that way. So what you're gonna see here is the gameplay and opinion of someone who is
not a Halo player.
If all you want is the opinion of someone who really knows the series and can jump into the game immediately on Legendary, you're not gonna get it here. I'm just going into this game hoping for a good time. I looked up some videos to catch me up on the story. I don't know advanced Halo strategies or what weapons are best. I'm just playing the game, and that's it.
This video will solely focus on the campaign, because I'm a single-player guy. The multiplayer is fine, it's fun. I don't have anything else to say about it. If you want to hear about balance and maps and progression, you'll have to go somewhere else. Here we go. I'll start with what I really like about Halo Infinite. It looks nice, sometimes. I played at 1440p resolution, and I generally like the way the game looks. The performance isn't the greatest, but locking myself to 60 FPS on PC ensured a solid experience at my preferred resolution. I especially love how detailed and worn Master Chief's suit is. You can see a lot of history there. The enemy designs look classic, really reminds me of when I played the game 20 years ago. The grunts are really funny and cute. I love what they say when you die to one. I think the weapons are cool, and the antagonists have fun designs and are pretty detailed. I'm not familiar enough with Master Chief to have any kind of connection to him as a character, but the voice acting made me smile when he spoke. There's a charm to him, I like it.
The battle rifle feels good to shoot. I like that you can target enemy helmets and then get an easy headshot. There's a loud, satisfying headshot sound too. It's a bit much, but I think it's good that you can really hear it since combat can be so fast and chaotic sometimes.
Yeah, when Halo gets chaotic, it's incredible. There's so many different ways to tackle things in Halo, and that's what made it so revolutionary for its time. Having a huge, large, interactive sandbox. Hey, maybe I want to use the BR-75. Maybe I want to use the Bulldog. Maybe I want to use the Commando. Maybe I want to fly and use the Banshee. Maybe I want to drive. I'll use the Warhog. Maybe I want to get in a tank. Or never mind that. I'd rather go on the ground and gun. Maybe I want to snipe. The game gives you that level of freedom. It gives you all the tools and utensils and says, hey, it's all yours and you can do whatever you want with it. This is what makes Halo so incredible and set a standard of first-person shooters. That is what made Halo so revolutionary when it came out. So Halo Infinite is loyal to this, and that's why Halo Infinite is a great game.
The grappling hook is a fantastic addition to Halo's combat loop, in my opinion. Being able to pull new weapons to you when you're out of ammo, escape a dangerous situation, climb to new vantage points when approaching a fight, the eventual upgrade that gives you a charge punch, which is super powerful. All of this made me, someone who generally gets frustrated by the feel of Halo's movement, feel more liberated on the battlefield. From what I've seen, a lot of Halo players appreciate the way the grappling hook works in Infinite, though I'm sure there are others that don't like the addition. The grappling hook also lets you traverse the map in unconventional ways, scaling mountains to enter a mission from the rear, and some fun speed boosting and bunny hopping that I'm sure the speedrunners are enjoying. My favorite innovation is the addition of explosive objects. Being able to grapple an exploding canister and throw it at a shielded grunt or a hunter is very satisfying and adds to the improvisational nature of combat. When the action in Halo Infinite really gets going and I play more aggressively, I find the game pretty fun. It gives you the tools to allow you to overextend and put yourself in dangerous situations simply out of fun, and then switch strategies to recover. For example, maybe I'll do some damage to an elite and go in for the kill using the grappling hook super punch, and now that I'm exposed, I'll plop down an energy shield and use it for cover while I plan my next move. It's pretty fun. I do wish it had some kind of way to refill your health without just taking cover. Fill your health without just taking cover.
Fill your health without just taking cover.
You wish there was some way to get health without taking cover? Why? You do realize that if you have a game where you have to find health to get health back to your character, then if you were to add health recovery from taking cover, it would become unbalanced. You'd be overpowered. Bungie thought ahead and allowed you to only gain health from taking cover. So you can't just find health. You don't have to resource manage health in other games. You do. In Halo, you do not. Because you'd be unbalanced. You'd be potentially overpowered. You're finding health, plus you can get free health from taking cover. It prompts you to play the game more methodically because Halo is a methodical shooter.
But at least there's a decent balance between strong offensive and defensive options. As a new player, playing the game on Heroic for my first playthrough, I died plenty of times, but I also rarely found myself getting stuck in a battle for longer than 10 minutes or so if I was struggling. Halo Infinite is at its best when it asks you to use several tools at once, which it doesn't always do.
Halo is at its best when it lets you utilize multiple tools, but it doesn't tell this to you, so what? So what? Okay, the game gives you freedom and multiple tools to utilize, but it doesn't make it apparent. Maybe that's because it should be apparent since the weapons, tools, and vehicles are right there in front of your face. Duh. Halo doesn't have to tell you its level of freedom in order for it to be viable. It's still viable because it's actually in the game. You can experience it by playing. As long as it's in the game's not telling you something so obvious that's right in front of you. When you play any Halo, aside from Halo Wars, yes, you have multiple tools and means of tackling enemies and situations. The game gives you the weapons, the vehicles, the freedom, and you can explore each level at your leisure. But the game doesn't tell you, hey, you can use these different weapons to affect things in different ways. You can freely choose how you fight these people. You can use these tools and create serious damage. The game is going to give you the tools and it's up to you to utilize them. It doesn't have to tell you that you have multiple tools to utilize. It just has to give it to you as long as it's in the game. That is not a flaw, that it didn't tell you what was obviously there.
Halo is known for that sandbox style of gameplay where you can approach battles in different ways. And in my experience, it usually allows for really lame play to be very effective.
And in my experience,
it usually allows for really lame play to be very effective.
You're saying that Halo allows for different styles of play, and you're saying that the level of freedom that Halo gives you, the very aspect that made it so groundbreaking for its time, allows for lame gameplay? What? This was a groundbreaking first-person shooter that set a whole new standard for other shooters because it allowed more freedom than most shooters. It allowed exploration, it allowed multiple tools and weapons, and it allowed player choice. You then stated this level of freedom allows for lame gameplay. Okay, yes, if you want to camp and sit back with a sniper or another weapon, you can do that. Or if you want to run and gun, you can do that too. That's the whole point of a sandbox, dude. The whole point of a sandbox is the fact that you choose what to do with it. That's the point. Player choice. You're choosing what to do with the sandbox. So if you play like that, the game isn't telling you to play in that manner. You're exercising gameplay freedom. Does that mean each playstyle is something you want to do? No. You might not want to play with a sniper or camp. Then don't. It allows that freedom. It allows the freedom to choose. You have to choose to play differently like the game is designed for. It's designed for different play. So if you complain and say it's bad, that player freedom means that someone can just camp or snipe from the back, then there'd be no player freedom. It would be linear and restrictive.
If I'm pushing forward and trying to win a fight in a more run-and-gun confrontational style, and I die several times for it, I feel like Halo Infinite wants me to stop and think about what I could do better. Stop and think about what I could do better.
What I could do better.
Duh.
I feel like Halo Infinite wants me to think smart about what I could do better. Yes, that's the point of Halo in general. Halo is a methodical shooter, so you have to stop and think carefully about your interactions.
Smarter grapples, better management of shields and trackers, awareness of enemies around me. And sure, I could do that. I could put in the work to play more efficiently or intelligently. Or, I could just sit back here and snipe everyone from cover, and that works just as well, if not better, and it's way easier. And that's one of my main issues with Halo.
I could put in the work to play more intelligently and effectively, so So why don't you just do that? Why don't you just play more intelligently and effectively? If deep down you already know, why not just play that way? It's a methodical shooter. It'll reward you for playing more smart. I played many games of Halo Infinite, running and gunning, getting in the Warthog and shooting using multiple weapons like the Bulldog and BR-75, running around with friends using multiple weapons and tackling stuff in different ways, flying around the Banshee and then getting into a tank. It's all a methodical choice. See, when Halo first arrived, there weren't a lot of shooters like this, just like when GoldenEye 007 first arrived. It was methodical, very different from the 90s arena shooter craze. These were slower, more methodical games that required you to slow down and think about what you were going to do. They were much more grounded. This was revolutionary for its time. But then Halo took it a step further. It allowed each level to be an explorable, interactive level with huge open level design. So open you could explore the entire thing like it's its own map. Something that big will require more gameplay freedom. And you're saying that freedom causes people to play foolish. But really, it's up to the player to play any way they want, and that's the point. Gameplay freedom. How could such an innovation in gaming history be called bad because it innovated so far that it allows for a sense of player agency that you did not see in many shooters of its time? Halo Infinite is a good example because it maintains this sandbox-like feeling. It maintains this level of interactivity. And since it maintains this, why does it get hate? It makes no sense when it has the ingredients, the interactivity, the open-ended level design, and choice of weapons too. There's so much more that Halo Infinite did with its gameplay, and that's because of Halo's groundbreaking design. This philosophy was followed up in Halo Infinite.
It always has been. The fact that staying alive is a matter of hiding behind a box and waiting for your shield to recharge. The fact that staying alive is a matter of hiding behind a box
and waiting for your shield to recharge.
When there's no active health recovery option, like map knowledge to grab high-value health pickups like in Quake.
The fact that you have to hide behind cover to regain health when there's no active health recovery option like Quake and Fear. What? Dude, first off, Quake, I love Quake to death. I will play that on my deathbed, but dude, you gotta understand Quake is a fast-paced arena shooter. Halo is a grounded sci-fi methodical shooter.
Managing stim packs to heal yourself in critical moments like Fear.
Fear? Fear? Really? Fear? Fear is a survivor horror game. How could you even compare the two? It's like comparing apples and oranges. You have to use stim packs to regain health in Fear. Yes. However, in Halo, you regain health by getting to cover, thus prompting the player to take cover. That's the point of the game. That's why they designed it to where when you have low health, you have to get to cover. That's why health recovery is tied to cover. Again, if you were to change this, it would have to be balanced. If you made it to where you find health in Halo, then in order to maintain video game balance for Halo, you can no longer get health from cover. But if you get health from cover, then to maintain balance, you can no longer just find health like in arena shooters like Quake. Halo isn't Quake, so to compare the two, then downplay Halo's achievements using Quake isn't fair because those are different games with different design philosophies. It's not a fair criticism, however, you have every right to make whatever criticism you like, and I love your work. I just feel like this is a stretch beyond belief. Halo isn't Quake. It isn't Doom. Halo is Halo. You get health from cover. If you were to change this, you would imbalance the game. And why? Just for Halo to be like all these other shooters, when many shooters have been striving to be like Halo or at least have the same quality? Because Halo set the standard for what a shooter should be.
Or, yes, of course, how could I not mention Doom's glory kill system where melee kills refill health and the flame belch refills armor?
What? You're comparing Doom's glory kill system to Halo's recovering health from cover system? Hey dude, I don't think that makes sense. Doom allows you to have health from fighting because Doom has resource management for health and ammo. Halo only has resource management from ammo and weapons. That's it. So it's just fine-tuned differently. Again, if you were to change this, you're changing the fundamentals of Halo. Thus, it must be balanced. And if it's not balanced, it won't play the same. Doom has resource management for health. Halo has resource management for ammo. Not the same.
When all I can do is run away and hide, why go forward into combat in the first place? Why not just run and hide the whole time and never risk dying? If there were little 10% shield recharge pickups scattered around, or something more active,
I would like this game so much more.
When all I can do is run away and hide, why even go forth with the combat? It's a choice. Do you have to play that way? No. But can you? Yes. That's the point of gameplay freedom. You can do something else if you choose, or you could just choose not to. Just because you're allowed to play by camping with just a sniper doesn't make the game flawed in that sense. That's bad criticism, because you're basically saying the game is bad because you're allowed to do certain things with its mechanics. That means the game is open, but it's up to you to utilize those mechanics. Why not just run and hide the whole time? Go ahead. You can, and you will die because they will come after you, and I know from experience. So it's not the most viable way to play, but if you want to, you can camp if you so choose. The game is giving you choice, and you're making it like that's a bad thing. I fail to see how that's a bad thing with Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite was criticized for being a bad game, but most people who claim it's bad don't talk about the gameplay. Then you finally have people who talk about the gameplay, but are criticizing it because it maintains the level of freedom Halo is known for. It's maintaining that level of freedom that made Halo so revolutionary in the first place. And you're saying that's a bad thing. It's a shock. I just don't understand.
If there were little 10% shield recharge pickups scattered around, or something more active,
I would like this game so much more.
If there were shield pickups scattered around or something active, I would like this game so much more. Okay, so like Doom? Halo isn't Doom. Dude, Halo is its own game. It isn't going to have health and shield pickups. You'd be overpowered. And the difficulty, especially for those of you out there who love legendary difficulty, I've played it. It's pretty amazing. If you respect that level of difficulty, imagine if what Mayo says were true. You could just pick up shields, pick up health. All of a sudden, the challenge and fine-tuning and balancing of the game out the window. Because, Halo has to be like an arena shooter when it's set the standard for what a shooter should be and change the landscape of shooters, and even went a step beyond what you saw in arena shooters for its time. Why take steps back all because it needs health resource management? just to be a good game. Halo Infinite stands on its own 2 feet. The level of freedom and gameplay choice, the way you can tackle stuff in different ways, plus the explosives, the weapons, the vehicles, and the grapple hook. Man, this game has so much freedom and creativity. But no, it's bad because it needs health pickups. Like this is Doom. Halo is not Doom, so I don't think that's a fair criticism.
But hey, Halo is Halo, and in Halo Infinite, they've made both your shield and health bar regenerating, so it is what it is. I'm not gonna start complaining about the other stuff. 2-weapon limit, reloading. That's how Halo plays, it's fine. I like the enemy-specific and weapon-specific tactics Halo Infinite offers. Plasma weapons to destroy shields, the grapple hook disables shields, kinetic weapons are great for instant headshots, enemies have weak points that you can use to kill them quickly, and certain enemies are good at pushing you to learn the game's mechanics. For example, the Berserkers charge at you at insane speeds and have a lot of health. When they first showed up, they beat the hell out of me repeatedly. But after a few encounters with them, I got good at using the grappling hook to distance myself to kill them from afar, using stun grenades to lock them into place, etc. Berserkers are introduced alone to get you into using certain tactics, and then later they appear mixed into larger battles to shake things up from time to time. Kinda reminds me of someone I know.
They let you utilize different weapons to affect different enemy types and push you into using different types of weapons, kind of like somebody I know. Yeah, like Doom Eternal. Right. But just because it has weapon variety doesn't mean it's like Doom. These are still totally different games. Doom Eternal is a fast-paced, modern arena shooter. Halo is a methodical sci-fi shooter. They aren't the same. To expect Halo to have stuff Doom has isn't fair towards the game because they aren't going to have the same gameplay philosophy or design. So you have to judge Halo based off of its own merits, not off of health resource management. Whether or not you can pick up health. Oh, this gameplay freedom means you can freely play foolishly and just play ridiculous, and it's viable. These are not the best criticisms because Halo, number 1, doesn't need to be like other shooters. It already set the standard for other shooters. Number 2, it doesn't need health pickups because Halo allows you to freely recover health at any time as long as you can take cover. So why have more health and shields when you're already given those things for free? Number 3, Halo is not Fear, and it's not Doom, so it will not play like that. So the resource management of Halo is going to work a little different.
There's a couple boss fights that really demand you learn the game, and I think they're pretty good. The final boss was a little frustrating for me, but I appreciate how it combines quick movement, precision, defensive options, and smart grappling to be successful. Tovaris and Hyperius were probably the most difficult fight for me. I died a lot, but I did feel like I came out the other end a better player, which is great. This guy was pretty good too. Disabling shields while keeping your distance plays well into Halo Infinite's mechanics. And my favorite boss fights were the invisible ones, where I was using my motion tracker in combination with exploding canisters and stunning weapons and grapple hook melee. At times it was fantastic. I wanted the whole game to feel like this, like I was being held accountable for my decisions. I felt like if I were playing dumb, I would die, whereas in a lot of other encounters in the game, dumb play is rewarded.
In other encounters in the game, dumb play is rewarded. How? Yes, you can play freely. That doesn't mean you get to play foolish. If you play foolishly, well, you might be exercising the freedom that Halo gives you, but you still have to use your ability. Why would you not play with your full ability? Just like earlier, you said you could play more intelligently if you wanted to. So why don't you? Why would you not play with the best of your ability knowing Halo's reputation for how hard it can be? Playing foolishly on Legendary, are you sure about that? Halo is a pretty balanced game, and if you play foolishly on harder difficulties, wow, that's probably not a good idea.
There is one boss fight, though, that is so pathetic I can't believe it's in the game. And it's in the game twice. This guy. Unbelievably bad boss fight. Shocking. You just shoot the 4 parts of his ship and shoot the middle and hide from his laser. It's so bad. But I gotta get to what I think the general issues of Halo Infinite's campaign are. Let's go in, more or less. First, there's no story recap. Like I said, I saw some videos that caught me up on the story.
It took me from Halo Wars all the way through Halo 5. It was a lot to take in, a little confusing at times. I mostly followed it, but it would have been very nice to have an introductory cutscene that set up where we are and what's going on and what had just happened before. Halo Infinite left a player like me with a lot of moments of, huh? What? Who? Watching all the cutscenes, taking my time at the beginning of the game to take in the world and figure out what's going on.
It didn't work.
Complementing the lifeless presentation of story is the lifeless world the game takes place in. I'm just calling the map the island because that's what it is. I find this map to be confused.
This lifeless map. The first ever Halo was in the woods, and it was open and free. Halo Infinite takes this and makes it practically open world, and you can freely traverse using the grapple hook. There are enemies, weapons, ammo, there's stuff everywhere all over its environment. It's so open and so free. How could you call that lifeless?
Not confusing to navigate because it's quite simple and fairly small, but the overall design decision is confusing. Why did they make it like this? They've made a linear open world game.
They made a linear open world game. Okay, open world means freedom. So you have accessibility and freedom, and that's a bad thing to you?
What's your problem, Grim? What is your problem?
Okay, when you make broad claims like this, it's missing the aspect that makes both genres good. So elaborate, what do you mean? Okay, so you're not a fan of open world games these days. That explains why you have a problem with Halo Infinite's open world-like design. And can I just say, since the original Halo games were open-ended and practically allowed you to freely travel the entire level each time, isn't that maintaining Halo's feel by allowing it to be open world-like? Those games were open. This is an open world. Isn't that a natural step for Halo since the previous were open? Now this is open world-like?
It takes the designs of linear level-based games and non-linear open-world exploration games and mashes them together in a way that bafflingly ends up leaving out all the positive aspects of both. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not much of a fan of open world games. At least, not right now. I remember having lots of fun with the old 3D GTA titles, and I loved Red Dead Redemption.
We love the same games, Mayo. Red Dead, hell yeah. GTA 4, I love that to absolute death. I absolutely love that game. I agree. So if you love other open worlds, what's wrong with Halo going open world or having a more open world-like design? Why is that a bad thing? It allows even more freedom for what was already open.
What is your problem?
But that was 10 years ago, and maybe I've just changed or I'm simply tired of the genre, but currently it's difficult for me to enjoy those types of experiences. It was my main concern going into Halo Infinite.
Okay, so lately it's been difficult for you to enjoy open worlds. Okay, tell me why. I can tell you some issues with modern open worlds. Well, they feel the same. Some of them feel like they were supposed to be linear action games, but they made it open world without fully utilizing its open world aspects. So they slapped on the open world design for consumers without considering what made games like Assassin's Creed 2's open world work so well. So, Mayo, just break down why, and maybe it'll make more sense, because again, when you make broad claims and don't explain it, it kind of doesn't always make sense. That's all I'm saying.
I was worried about a game packed full of grinding side quests, and I was especially concerned about having to spend 20 to 30 hours on this one island looking at trees and rocks. The first time I got to the island, I opened the map and thought, oh god, look at all these places.
I don't even know where to begin. I felt overwhelmed.
When you first arrived, you looked at all these places. I don't know where to begin. Dude, that's the point. When you first arrived, you took a look at all these places. I don't know where to begin. Dude, that's the point. It's amazing. Look at all this freedom, and it's a Halo game with this level of freedom. Wow. I don't know where to begin. This is kind of overwhelming in a good way. That's what makes Halo Infinite so amazing, and something people who hate on it don't even regard or give enough props. People didn't give enough props to this game for what it achieved, for what it accomplished for Halo. The fact that you arrived at its open world-like setting and said, I don't know where to begin, that's kind of the point. That's how you're supposed to feel. That's the definition of gameplay freedom. This criticism I've heard before from other Halo fans, and so many people, it's empty, it's lifeless. How? When the old Halos were open, yet it was packed full of enemies. You mainly spent most of your time, if not all of your time, shooting enemies and saving allies, so now you have a more open version of that and suddenly it's lifeless?
But fortunately, it was easy to figure out. Yellow markers for the main storyline, red markers for FOB points that unlock armories and fast travel, and there's assassination missions and whatever. So let's talk about open world design. These FOB points let you fast travel so you don't have to drive around, and really, thank God, because driving around isn't all that exciting and lots of the terrain is unfriendly to vehicles. You don't need to drive around hoping to catch a rare event. And the world isn't interesting to explore because there just isn't much to see. It's literally just drive from one point to the other. And I know lifeless is a strong word to use when describing this map, but I'm not exaggerating. This place is dead. There's not a single thing happening here outside of the static side missions that are always there regardless of the hour of the day. If this were a real living place, you would be driving to a mission and then stumble upon something like a banished supply truck transporting ammo to a base. But there's nothing here. There are no real side quests in this game. By that, I mean you're not going to one place in the map, meeting characters, learning story, accepting missions for a reward, traveling to other parts of the map, possibly returning to the original location. None of that. These bonus missions are mostly just about liberating the one area and hitting some switches to open a gate or something. Go here and kill this guy so you can unlock a weapon. Go over here and rescue a squad from an ambush for valor points. Nothing that actually utilizes the map, traversal, exploration, storytelling.
Go there and kill this guy to unlock a weapon. Okay. In the old Halos, you had to pick that same weapon up and go over here and rescue a squad from an ambush. Okay. In the older Halos, you had to rescue squad members from the planet you landed on. So again, I fail to see how this is a problem for the game. So, the older Halos, the mission design was save allies, shoot enemies, and tackle it any way you see fit. So the new Halo Infinite, shoot enemies, ambush, explore. Dude, you're doing a lot of the same things you did in the old Halos. Now there's new kinds of missions and it's more open. So why are people so critical of the open world if you do many things you can do in the previous Halos? I don't understand that.
That's not to say some of them aren't fun. The outposts where you're recapturing these large banished bases are long, elaborate combat sequences, if you choose to do them. They're certainly better than a lot of the copy-paste missions you find at a lot of spots. But again, this stuff very much feels like go over and liberate this area if you want to, but it doesn't really matter. So what about the main mission path? The main missions take you from the left part of the map where you gotta disable towers, to the middle section where you gotta disable gun turrets, to the bottom right where you have to disable 4 beacons. That's the game. Almost every time you hit a switch, and you listen to Cortana talk about something. In between each part of the map, you're entering tunnels and spaceships, which contain some decent combat sections here and there, and other parts that are largely empty where you're hitting more switches. You earn Valor as you play, main mission or not, which unlocks additional weapons and vehicles at the FOB points, but I found it largely unnecessary. I didn't even realize I was earning this Valor stuff until the game was over, and I still had unlocked plenty of weapons by just following the main missions. It makes all the side stuff feel kinda meaningless, especially when the mission design is so basic and repetitive. And I know that earlier I said I was initially worried about having to engage in a lot of typical open world stuff like XP grinding and elaborate side quests, but I gotta say, an open world style map without that stuff kinda feels pointless. Why are we even doing this? Just make it a linear campaign if you're not gonna put the effort into fleshing out the map with interesting things to engage with.
You might as well make it linear if you're not gonna flesh it out. It's fleshed out with missions, enemies, quests, weapons, vehicles, and since it has open world design, you don't have to travel a linear path to wait to get all the cool stuff. You can go after that at any time.
Here's an imaginary side quest for Halo Infinite. The Banished have captured one of our squads and they're transporting them to an aerial station for prison transfer. You need to intercept their vehicles on the northern path in the next 5 minutes or they'll be lost forever. Rescue the prisoners and bring them back here safely, which results in a vehicle chase sequence. Amongst the Banished is a high-value target, a commander responsible for war crimes. Eliminate him for a bonus reward of Valor. Additionally, there's a rare mineral aboard the transport, and if you bring it back, you'll get a permanent +5 ammo capacity upgrade to the pulse rifle. Wow, wouldn't that be fun and rewarding? How is there not a single side mission or even main mission objective like this? Instead, we get mission after mission of isolated targets that have nothing to do with the world, and rescue missions where it doesn't even matter if the soldiers you rescue survive. One time I entered a rescue mission with 3 soldiers helping me. We rescued another 3 soldiers, and at the end of the mission, only 1 was alive. I lost 5 men, and that's a successful mission? Are you kidding me?
These Marines aren't dying today. Great work.
Yeah, these are my best buddies. I've never felt so connected to Martin, that guy, and I guess that everyone else is dead, huh? I guess that was a really successful rescue of the Cobra Squad.
When you brought up your hypothetical mission design, hey, wait a minute, don't they already have missions like that in Halo Infinite, where you have to go to an area, fight enemies, and you're rewarded for it with a weapon? So why does it have to be that specific thing you mentioned for it to be viable when it's already adding all these other things with its mission and open world design? All the different ways you can tackle fighting enemies, all the mission, quest, and enemies you fight freely at a moment's leisure, and because it doesn't have a specific kind of design you liked, it's bad. I'll admit that it's a decent design, but it doesn't have to have design like that when it already allows this level of freedom. The freedom gives missions more flexibility, allowing more. You do more stuff in each mission. Rescue missions, it doesn't even matter if the soldier survives. You do realize that in the old Halos, when people you tried to rescue died, guess what? It didn't matter. It's not an export game. It's Halo. Main missions are a linear path. Wait a minute, didn't people complain about the fact that Halo isn't linear like the old Halos?
That don't make no sense.
So then how could you turn around and complain about the fact that this Halo doesn't have linear missions, but the main mission has a linear structure, and you're still saying it's bad? It's giving you what you asked for. You wanted it to be linear, and so the mission design of the main mission is structured linear, and it's still a problem. Does Halo benefit from being able to spawn in weapons? Yes, because now you can play any way you want. You don't feel forced to play a certain way because you ran out of ammo. You can take them into any battle and approach any way you want, and there's no restriction because you can spawn any weapon you want. So you don't feel like you're forced to use certain weapons when you run out of ammo.
Oh no! Oh man, we came here with like 3 guys, and then we rescued like 4 others, and only fucking Ricardo made it out. Well done, Spartan. Use your valor points. Now go rescue another squad. Ricardo, you want to come? You want to come rescue another squad with me? There's not even like a penalty for everyone in the squad dying when you rescue them? Oh, Lord. The more I play this game, the more just ridiculous shit stands out to me.
There's no interesting characters to meet, there's no side missions that affect the main story, even in a small way. This world is so empty. This is a big issue, so I'm gonna stay with it a little more. The lack of actual open world style missions that require traveling to multiple parts of the map renders the FOB points irrelevant. Because if you don't really need to travel the map and engage in side missions to unlock necessary weapons, and you don't have any side missions that take you back and forth across and all around the map, and if the main mission only crosses the map once, why are these FOB points even here? This is what I mean when I say the game's design is confused. Additionally, the FOBs kinda break Halo's whole design philosophy, don't they? I suppose that's a bold statement for a non-Halo player to make, but correct me if I'm wrong here. Isn't a big part of the Halo experience the fact that you can't just start any mission with whatever weapons you want? You're regularly depending on what you find in the battlefield, adapting, using weapons you're not comfortable with. So does Halo's combat design actually benefit from being able to spawn in whatever powerful weapons you prefer to rely on and take them into any battle you want and approach them all identically? I don't think it does. Pretty quickly, I was entering every mission with the same weapons, and once I could spawn a battle rifle sniper combo, it was game over. How about we just run into every assassination and rescue mission with rocket launchers and boss weapons? Spam hammers against giant bosses until they die. How about we drive into a rescue mission with a truck full of soldiers and literally just drive the car around mindlessly for a minute and a half while the soldiers shoot every single bad guy that I don't run over with the car until the mission is over. Wow, this is great mission design, guys. On top of that, there's ammo refill stations all over the place, so you can keep refilling most guns easily and rarely have to put them down. It's really weird. I don't remember ammo stations being in the original games. Maybe they were, I don't know.
Ammo stations. You can't freely keep refilling ammo. There is still resource management. It runs out after a while and you'll have to find another one. So no, you can't just keep freely refilling. So that is not a flaw with the game. Mayo says he doesn't remember ammo stations being in the original games. That's true. They weren't. However, that's what makes it so great. This has never been in Halo before. It opens up the gameplay loop to changes more and allows for players to exercise freedom in different ways without having an ammo restriction. And yet it balances this by having an ammo limit, so you can't keep refilling the same station. I'm not sure why you didn't mention that important little detail since you've played this game.
Regarding the fast travel mechanic, the first time I ever needed fast travel to FOB points was the beacon mission near the end. You gotta go to 4 points of the map, very spread out, and hit a button at each beacon. It's the same thing 4 times, with a lot of travel in between. And since I had never been to this part of the map, I had no FOB points. I desperately wanted fast travel, and I didn't have it. I guess it's my fault for not driving around for hours doing assassination missions and liberating FOB points before deciding to follow the story? Yeah, I guess. Sure. But at this point of the game, I had already gotten the feeling that there was nothing to see that expanded this world, so I just stuck to the main mission from here on out. And this is when Halo Infinite really started going downhill for me. Hard. The last stretch of the game puts you in this awful beacon chasing mission, and then into another section of a seemingly infinite number of big empty rooms, looking for a stupid amount of switches and watching cutscenes where you're almost exclusively fighting drones. They are not fun in the slightest. They're annoying harassment units, and harassment units need to be used with other units, like a God of War Harpy. They're annoying, but they work with other enemies to create a unique flow to combat. As much as I love God of War, if there was a 30-minute section of all Harpies, I would scream. I started to find myself wondering, is this game even finished? And the answer is no, it isn't. Through the problem-ridden development process, they had to significantly scale back their vision, and 2/3 of the game's content had to be cut.
Is this game even finished? Please explain how it's not finished. Vehicles? Check. Weapons? Check. Player freedom? Check. Open-ended design? Hell, let's just make it open world. Check. All this in Halo Infinite, a game you call unfinished. Again, I fail to see how a game with this much stuff in it, and you even said it pushed you into weapon variety, similar to what you saw in Doom. How in the world is this an unfinished game again? 2/3 had to be cut. Halo 2 went through something similar when it was first being developed. They had to restart the entire game from scratch. So the old Halos had development issues. Again, I failed to see how a development issue means that a game is not on point. This game has been on point with all the content, features, gameplay, player choice, and freedom in Halo Infinite. After the updates and patches, because Halo Infinite, this game has been on point for quite some time. With all the content, features, gameplay choice, and freedom in Halo Infinite, this is an underrated relic in the Halo franchise.
According to this Bloomberg article, that's why the open world feels so bare bones and the missions so boilerplate. I understand that this is 343's best Halo game so far, and it's a nice recovery after Halo 5, but even if you love this game, you gotta admit this could have and should have been a lot better. After such a tedious mission in the beacon section, to bring the game down even further with room after room of drones, empty hallways, switches, and cutscenes, it's just astonishing to me, and it left me feeling like I dislike this game more than I actually do. I've never played a Halo game this much. Never in my life did I think I'd play 20 to 30 hours of a Halo game, because it's not my thing. But this game has solid enough combat to keep me going till the end, and that's more than I can say for a lot of games where I just want to give up out of boredom. The final letdown was the ending itself. Not so much the story, but that I was expecting more main missions. It felt like there should still be more to do, that the conflict isn't over.
You felt like at the end of Halo Infinite there should be more missions, but in the old Halos, when you beat the game, that was it. So why is it okay for the old Halos to do this, but when a new Halo does this, oh, because it was open world like, suddenly it's wrong? Honestly, that is a bad criticism. Sorry, but dude, that is a bad criticism, because it wasn't allowing me to do more missions after I already beat the entire game. But in the old Halos, the same thing happened, so that's a double standard. Because why didn't older Halos come under fire for that same thing?
So what's the next mission? Instead, we're dumped back onto the island, which, to be fair, I was expecting to happen eventually, because of the open world nature of the game, right? You beat the game, and now you can go do all the side content and have fun. But maybe I was expecting a new series of side missions to unlock or something?
Wait, let me get this straight. When you beat the game, unlike the older Halos, you can still do the side content. That's amazing. Again, you couldn't do that in the old Halos. Are you going to acknowledge that? Are you going to give that props? If not, I will. This is why Halo Infinite is such an underrated gem. It allows you to keep fighting even after you beat the game. That's fun. Wow.
Because when I opened the map and looked at all there was to do, I just stared blankly and said, I don't really want to do any of this. I came back a few days later and did some assassination missions, some squad rescues, and it all felt hollow. It's certainly no GTA, where after the main story you can call up your girlfriend and talk to her about stuff, mess with the cops and create a big chase in the streets.
It's certainly not like GTA, where you can call your girlfriend and hit up the cops and whatnot. Dude, Halo is not an open world game. It might be more open than ever before with its open world like design, but it's not open world, it's just more open. It's still Halo. Halo underneath is a methodical shooter with gameplay freedom, and it's a sandbox. To expect it to be like GTA just because they made it more open is kind of unfair to the game. You have to assess games based on their own merits. Those games have cities that feel alive, but those are open world games. That's not the same. This is a shooter. There's a difference. Even if it's a shooter with more freedom, it's still a shooter. So it's not the same. You said something similar earlier by comparing Halo to Fear, or survival horror game. Now you're comparing it to GTA, an open world game, when Halo is a shooter? It never rains or snows, not enough life and people around. You do realize the old Halos were linear levels. Yes, they were huge sandboxes, very explorable, but they didn't have a boatload of open world stuff going on. So Halo Infinite also doesn't, but it gets all the hate when the older Halo games didn't have all that open world activity either. This isn't even an open world game, so to hold it to that standard is just unfair, and it's a bad criticism. And this is what I'm laying down. I like your work, Mayo, and you make good stuff, but we don't see eye to eye with Halo Infinite. This is a great game that got no love, and it's sad. It's got a bunch of gameplay freedom. This game got all these weapons, missions, activities, a more open environment, a grapple hook for more flexibility, and a free multiplayer for the world to enjoy. And it got no love. Unreal. This underrated relic deserves better. And this is what I'm laying down. This was Tarragon. Thank you for watching.